Hi, it's Safety Geek, and I haven't made a video in a while. One reason is because I was in the middle of moving. I bought a house, and that's why my phone is now awkwardly held up by the stairs, because I'm not sure where my selfie holder is that I had been using. I also have been applying to grad schools so I can go get my degree in public health. And the last reason, and that's the reason why I'm making this video, is I was fostering a puppy that got sick and didn't make it. So it's not exactly going to be the happiest video in the world, and I'm sorry. It's not the easiest thing to talk about. So I already had one dog. It's a retired racing greyhound, and we decided after we bought the house to get a second dog so our dog could have a friend. Well, we were at work and we went to this organization that goes down to high kill shelters, and they get dogs that are marked to be euthanized. So we were fostering a 10-week-old lab puppy that they had. We named him Niffler, and we had him for about a week, and everything was going great. And then I came home from work, and he had diarrhea coating the bottom of his crate that we left him in when we weren't home. And it was the worst smelling bodily fluid I have ever encountered. I used to work in healthcare and as a lifeguard, and I've dealt with a lot of bodily fluids, and this by far was the worst. I didn't think much of it at the time. I cleaned it up. I noticed that he wasn't drinking any water or eating food, but I still didn't think much of it until that night he started to vomit. I took him over to one of the volunteers' houses so she could give him some medication. Because of the foster contract, I wasn't allowed to take him to a vet. I think that they were afraid that they would get stuck with some massive bill in case we couldn't pay or flaked or something like that. My husband and I both stayed home the next day to take care of him, and he just kept getting more sick. We took turns holding him, and he was held the entire time we had him and he was sick. I kept doing research to try to figure out what was going on, and the thing that kept popping up was parvo, and I was really hoping it wasn't that, but it was. Parvo has a really high fatality rate. It's about 97%. The reason why it's so high is because usually people put down a dog if they have parvo, because the chances of survival are pretty slim. He did make it, oh, there goes my dog. He did make it past the first 72 hours, which is usually when a dog dies of parvo. So we were really hopeful, and we thought things were looking up, but he went back to the organization so they could take care of him and use their vet service that they partner with. And we got a call a few days later that he didn't make it. There are vaccines for parvo, but he wasn't old enough to be fully vaccinated. He only got the first shot, and it's a several shot deal. I've seen people online say that they don't want to vaccinate their dog because they didn't think it was a serious threat. Parvo is very contagious. It can live in soil for about a year if it's been infected by a dog. We found out that originally Niffler was supposed to be put down because his litter mate had parvo, and the shelter had very limited resources, and if one dog and a litter had parvo, they were all euthanized. because of just how contagious and devastating it is. So if I had known that it was parvo, I would have been pushing Pedialyte in chicken broth sooner. There are treatments for parvo, although nothing is 100%. If you give them medications for parvo, it can be very expensive, but if you push chicken broth and Pedialyte, it gives them a better chance than nothing. And the main thing that they will be affected by is the loss of fluids and losing their strength from what goes along with that. So I know this is a downer and it's not a video I wanted to make, but I kept thinking that if someone else has to go through the horror that parvo is, maybe them finding a video on YouTube talking about someone else's experience might somehow help them. I'm going to be making a whole video series about dog safety, and unfortunately this is the first one. I know the other ones aren't going to be as much of a downer as a dead puppy. I hope no one else ever has to deal with it, because the whole experience was just awful. It was draining and just absolutely heartbreaking. So thank you so much for watching. Please comment. Like I said, I hope no one else has ever dealt with this. But thanks. Bye.